I could feel the lace of my wedding gown scraping lightly against my collarbone, each thread a tiny reminder to keep my posture perfect. The photographer's flash went off in bursts, catching the sparkle of the chandelier above me and the champagne flute in my hand. My lipstick was flawless, my smile rehearsed. And then my mother, Karen Whitmore. She stepped toward me through the crowd, a familiar perfume cutting through the mingled scents of roses and champagne. Her arms opened wide, her voice sticky sweet. "Oh, sweetheart, you look beautiful." It was almost convincing. Almost. But those words, the other words, still lived inside me like shards of glass. Damaged goods. That's what she had told Ryan, my fiancé, now my husband, 2 years ago, before she ever knew the kind of man he truly was. In that moment, the ballroom faded. The music blurred into a distant hum. I felt the cool stem of the champagne glass between my fingers, the silk lining of my gown against my skin, the soft tap of my heels on the marble as I instinctively took half a step back. Her arms froze midair, still waiting for me to close the space between us. And I didn't. Instead, I let a calm, practiced smile hover on my lips. "Thank you, Mom," I said, my voice as even as the satin in my dress. But inside, I was replaying everything, every word, every wound that had led me here. 2 years earlier, my hair was shorter, my skin a little paler, and my hope for a normal relationship with my mother still intact. I'd been dating Ryan for just 6 months when I decided to bring him to Sunday dinner at my mom's house in Savannah Heights. It was the kind of neighborhood where every lawn looked like it had been auditioning for a magazine cover, and my mom's white-columned porch always smelled faintly of lemon polish and judgment. I remember clutching Ryan's hand as we walked up the steps, my grandmother's silver bracelet cool against my wrist. She'd given it to me when I was 18, telling me, "Emily, you are not broken. You are rare. Never forget that." Dinner started pleasantly enough. My mom fussed over Ryan, asking about his job in architecture, his family, his college football days. She laughed at all the right times, touched his arm as if she'd been waiting to meet him her whole life. Then I went into the kitchen to help her bring out dessert. I can still see the pie on the counter, the way the meringue peaks caught the warm light. I was just reaching for the plates when I heard her voice, low, conspiratorial, drifting in from the dining room. She's damaged goods, Ryan. I just don't want you to end up disappointed. You know, after everything." I froze. My breath caught in my chest like a stone. Everything. She meant the miscarriage, the divorce, the job I'd lost when the company downsized. All the moments I'd fought to survive. To her, they weren't battles I'd won, but stains I carried. Ryan didn't answer right away. The silence felt like it could crush me. My hands trembled so badly, I almost dropped the plates. When I finally stepped back into the dining room, my face felt numb. I smiled, I served the pie, I pretended I hadn't heard a word. But the bracelet on my wrist pressed into my skin, a quiet reminder from my grandmother's voice in my memory, "You are rare." By the end of the night, I knew something had shifted. Not between Ryan and me, he squeezed my hand tighter when we left, but between me and my mother. I wasn't going to let her words define me ever again. After that night, I started keeping my distance. Calls from my mom went to voicemail more often than not. I skipped Sunday dinners, made excuses about work, and quietly began building a life that didn't revolve around her approval. At first, it felt like walking through fog. I didn't have a clear plan, just an ache in my chest, and the bracelet on my wrist reminding me I was worth more. I'd been working in a mid-level marketing role when a client I'd handled personally sent me a note. "If you ever go out on your own, call me." I read it 3 times, my pulse picking up. That night, with Ryan listening quietly at the kitchen counter, I said, "I think I'm going to start my own firm." The next months were brutal. Long nights at my tiny apartment desk, my laptop propped up on a stack of hardcover books. Learning accounting software from YouTube tutorials. Designing my own website because I couldn't afford a professional. Some nights I'd sit there in pajama pants and a blazer, pitching to clients over Zoom, praying they wouldn't notice the background was just my laundry room with the dryer door shut tight. But slowly it began to work. One client became three. Three became seven. A small bakery chain hired me for a full rebranding, my first five-figure contract. I remember opening the email, staring at the number, and covering my mouth so I wouldn't scream and wake Ryan. I met my mentor, Diane Callahan, at a networking event. She was the kind of woman who walked into a room and made every other person stand up a little straighter. She took me under her wing, not just teaching me business strategy, but reminding me over and over, "Don't you dare shrink to make anyone comfortable, Emily." By the end of the second year, I'd moved my business into a small but elegant office in downtown Charleston. Exposed brick, tall windows, a desk I'd saved months to buy. My name, Whitmore Creative Strategies, gleamed on the frosted glass door. Online, I kept it all modest. Photos of coffee cups, sunsets, the occasional shot of Ryan and me hiking. No big announcements, no bragging. My mother thought I was still finding myself, struggling quietly somewhere out of sight. And I preferred it that way, because I knew, when the time came, the reveal would be on my terms. The wedding day was more than a celebration. It was a stage I'd been unconsciously setting for years. The venue was a historic estate on the edge of Charleston, its sweeping lawns glowing gold under the late afternoon sun. White roses lined the aisle, their scent drifting through the air, mingling with the faint notes of the string quartet. Inside the reception hall, crystal chandeliers threw light across velvet drapes and polished mahogany floors. Most people assumed Ryan's family had footed the bill. I didn't correct them. Not yet. I spotted my mother the moment she arrived. Pale blue dress, pearls, the same practiced smile she'd worn my whole life. She scanned the room like a realtor, taking in the arrangements, the centerpieces, the grand piano in the corner. I could see the calculation in her eyes, the way she cataloged every sign of wealth and elegance, assuming it belonged to someone else. She wasn't the only one. A few relatives whispered, "Ryan must be doing well for himself." I let them talk. During the reception, I excused myself from a table of college friends and crossed the room to where she stood, sipping champagne. "Beautiful place," she said, her eyes sweeping the room again. "I can't imagine what this cost." I smiled. "You don't have to imagine. I paid for it." Her glass froze halfway to her lips. "You what?" "I own this venue now," I said lightly. "Bought it last year. The catering company, too. It's been one of my better investments." Her eyes darted around, as if the chandeliers and marble floors might suddenly look different now that they belonged to me. I didn't realize your little marketing thing was doing so well." "It's not little," I said, my tone even. "It's a seven-figure firm. I employ 12 people. And no, I don't need help from anyone, not anymore." For a moment, she just stared at me. I could almost see the memory flicker in her eyes, her voice leaning toward Ryan in that dining room, saying damaged goods. And now here I was, standing taller, steadier, and completely in control of my life. Ryan walked up beside me, slipping his arm around my waist, his presence warm and solid. He didn't say a word, just looked at my mother the way a man does when he knows the whole story. The silence stretched, the music filling in the space between us. My mother's smile wavered, just slightly, before she smoothed it back into place. That's when she reached for me, for that hug. Her arms were still outstretched when I spoke. "Before you do that," I said quietly, "there's something you need to hear." The chatter of the reception swirled around us, clinking glasses, bursts of laughter, but my voice cut through like the first drop of rain in still air. "You called me damaged goods, Mom. You told Ryan I wasn't worth the risk. And you didn't just say it once, you made me believe it for years. So, if you're going to be in my life now, we're not going to pretend that never happened." Her smile faltered. "Emily, I held up my hand. "No excuses. Not today. I'm willing to have a relationship, but there are conditions." Her brow creased. "Conditions?" "Yes." My voice didn't rise, I didn't need it to. The steadiness was the power. "First, no more comments about my past. Not in jokes, not in whispers, not even when you think I can't hear. Second, you're going to start respecting my husband. No side remarks, no comparisons, no tests. Third, you will get help. Therapy, coaching, something that makes you face the way you treat people. Her mouth opened, but I kept going. And here's the last thing. You don't get access to my life just because you share my blood. You get access when you show you can be kind, supportive, and safe to be around. Until then, we keep our distance. Around us, the music shifted to a softer melody. Somewhere behind me, Ryan's thumb brushed gently against my waist, a quiet reminder that I wasn't alone in this anymore. My mom looked at me like she didn't recognize the woman in front of her. Maybe she didn't. That version of me, the one who flinched at her tone, who chased after her approval, didn't exist anymore. "You've changed," she said finally. "Yes," I said. "And it's the best thing I've ever done." She lowered her arms slowly. Whether it was shame or simply realization, I didn't know. But for the first time in my life, the balance between us had shifted. And it wasn't shifting back. It's been 6 months since that day. I won't pretend everything magically healed. Change isn't a wedding gift you unwrap overnight. But my mother has been trying. Small things at first. A text on my birthday that didn't come with criticism. Asking how my business was going without a trace of disbelief in her tone. Even remembering Ryan's favorite coffee order the last time they met for lunch. I keep my boundaries in place, the way you keep a fence around a garden you've worked too hard to let anyone trample. She knows I mean it. Sometimes I think about that moment in her dining room 2 years ago. The pie on the counter, her voice calling me damaged goods. And then I think about my grandmother, the feel of her silver bracelet around my wrist as she told me I was rare. That bracelet is still with me. I wore it on my wedding day, hidden beneath the lace sleeve of my gown. When my mother reached out for that hug, I felt the cool metal press against my skin, and I remembered who I really was. My life is no longer defined by what I've survived, but by what I've built. And as I stand here today, a wife, a business owner, a woman who knows her worth, I can say this without flinching. I'm not damaged goods. I'm priceless. And now I finally believe it.